welcome to another episode of More Than Dice. I'm Gonzo.
I'm on time.
That is John O. Spencer. Welcome to episode 233. Today we're going to be talking about terrain. How much is too much? How much is too little? How to make terrain? What to do for terrain? Where you can get terrain? The whole terrain episode. And I'm going to be working on terrain. I'm going to be working on some Tinker Turf crate, because I can do those pretty quickly, which will be, they are a sponsor for Warfare Weekend. So they sent us some tables worth of terrain. They sent some last year, but they sent more this year. So, we should have, I think we'll have like 4 tables worth of terrain for their Warcaster tournament.
That's awesome.
Which is, their stuff is really good for Warcaster because it takes up a lot of space, and we'll talk about that because it'll come into effect of why that their terrain is good for Warcaster type stuff. I apologize. My allergies are kicking in right now, and so I've taken a lot of medication and tried to, stop it all from being on air. So just have to give me a break this time. Let's get into business. We want to thank Mini Masterworks for, of course, hosting and showing us and giving us a cool discount for everybody to go find and do your thing. You can go get the cool little paint shaker. John's modeling that. Thank you, Vanna.
There's too many cords over here. The cord's like stuck on 17 other cords.
We thank Parabellum War Games. We do have a affiliate code, so if you buy any of their miniatures, which they will actually be at Warfare Weekend also, they're going to be doing a couple of tournaments and running demos. We also want to thank Turbo Dork, which makes great color shifting and metallic paints.
Yep.
If you're looking for a color shifting and metallic paint person, go to Turbo Dork, and you can see what they have. Really cool. We thank Muse on Minis. Muse is still trying to get their site back up. They have hired actually a professional, I guess, to get everything up, but you can still go buy their cool stuff. They have great tokens, which you could get for pretty much every game out there. Their token sets are really good for MCP.
Yeah. MCP, very token heavy game.
Also want to thank Midnight Heroes. Good old Chibi stuff. He has some great Chibi models and is going to have a Chibi game coming out and going to be doing demos of that at Warfare Weekend.
It's been advertised all over the place on Facebook now, so that's got to be close.
Yeah. I think I think the rules are out, and he sold like 2 starter sets. I think he may have 3 total starter sets at Warfare Weekend. There's a dwarf one, an orc one, and I'm not sure what the third one's going to be. The dwarf one comes with a bunch of chibi dwarfs and earth golem, and the orc one is chibi orcs riding wolves. So
it needs to be goblins riding wolves. Orcs don't ride wolves.
Or goblins. I'm not sure which one it is, but greenskins type thing. I know he's going to be doing demos of it and going to be showing it off. So, other than that, I think I got everybody. It should be everybody. Do we have any shout outs this week? Has anybody passed away?
I mean, I'm sure someone has, but I don't really.
I don't know.
I don't really have a hand in my head. That's that. Well, looks like they are orcs on wolves.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen anybody. Didn't see anybody in the news come through or check. So I do want to give a shout out to something I did see. That came out, and it would have been really nice to see this actor come back in everybody's spotlight. Brendan Fraser. I mean, I guess the movie he made, The Whale, was at one of the Sundance or whatever type festivals and everything, and he got like a 7-minute standing ovation or whatever. He was actually not technically backballed from
it was
Hollywood, but he technically was.
Yeah, he was.
For calling out sexual abuse within the industry, and he is now back, and he is doing very well, making really good movies, and just he's an all-around being pretty nice guy.
Yeah, he's like
So
one of the good dudes of Hollywood from right here.
yeah, he's like another Keanu Reeves style type person,
Yep.
doing really good, doing some good work, acting and doing good where he can. So I want to give a shout out to him. Doesn't always have to be a negative or a death shout out.
Sure.
Also, we want to shout out to all of our listeners. Thank you for listening. Make sure you check
Mm-hmm.
out all of our codes that we have so you can get discounts on everything that we got out there. If you're going out anywhere, make sure you're still safe. There is there is a booster now that works with the Omicron. If you need to get your booster, you can get this one and it affects all the strains now, which is good. So you can get that. I will be picking that up shortly. My work pays for it, so I don't have to worry about it. But make sure you take care of yourself. Wash your hands. Don't make out with any dead hookers. Just do what you can to be, safe.
Gonzo.
If somebody could see John's
you
face.
You don't have to say dead hookers. That's like saying ATM machine. They're only hookers when they're dead. Otherwise, they're prostitutes. Please get your nomenclature right.
But we appreciate it. John, what are you drinking tonight?
Wherever I can. Shit. I have a Moscow Mule.
A Moscow Mule. Since I'm taking a ton of medication, I am on water. So
the hard stuff, huh?
Yeah, with a straw this time. And my straw is
with a straw.
A Purple Heart.
Is it a reusable straw?
Yes, it is.
Good job.
Oh yeah, I have hard plastic ones and metal ones, but it is a Purple Heart straw. So, guys, please take care of yourself. Please look after each other. Even if they get shipped to you because there's assholes in the world, please take care of people that are trying to find safety and health.
Yes, please do.
We love you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Man, it tastes 10 times better through a straw.
It's been like a week and a half since I had a drink, so.
Man, are you sick?
No, when works get bad enough, I don't drink. It's my defense mechanism.
It's your face mechanism. All right, I'm going to go and switch over to the paint cam / table cam. There we go.
We are a semi-professional group.
Oh, yeah. Someone told me I was a professional podcaster, and I was like, you're high.
I mean, technically, we make money. We are technically professionals.
Yeah,
we just don't make a lot of money.
Yeah. So, all right.
That is not our goal.
No, it is not our goal to make money.
Our goal is to have fun. You guys help us
Dance.
through that. I appreciate it.
Dance, dance, dance.
I was really
machine.
tickled by the people who contacted us with questions, on Facebook. I saw that. I was like, oh, shit. Thanks.
Oh, yeah. There was, which I actually, just so you know, I put in an order for some more Malifaux stuff.
Yeah, I got your box over there. I need to ship it. Sorry, Saturday sucked.
So I put in an order for a couple of more sets and books for Malifaux.
Like, I swear, it's back. Hold on.
You swear it's back there? I'm sure Captain Mizzy is going to ask.
It's all packed. It's all ready to go. Just need to get it out the door.
So before we get started, I'm going to be working on some Tinker Turf terrain. These are their crates and type stuff. Pretty simple cardboard type things. I'll pop one out real quick. Cardboard and some flexi parts so you can put stuff together. Everything, they do have all the instructions online on a PDFs, but they do have where you put the glue, hold it together type thing. So you'll get...
Oh, so that part folds in half.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've already put this together once, one of the sets already, so...
Just remember to pop out like he's doing there. You pop out that stuff before you glue it. It'll be a lot easier, trust me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, tweezers and all, you can do it anyways, but...
Yeah.
And what is this from? Because I'm not familiar.
This is Tinker Turf. This is their crates and something or other it's called.
Gotcha.
It's like scatter terrain.
No, scatter terrain is good.
Yeah. So...
cardboard's interesting because, I mean, at least you don't have to paint it.
Yeah, and it's pre-printed, so it's nice. I mean...
Yeah, it looks good.
It looks nice and everything.
Like, don't discount that stuff when you guys are looking for terrain.
Yeah, and it's pretty sturdy. I mean,
Yeah.
type thing.
You
So
have to
it's not.
transport it. You have to be careful when you transport it, but
Yeah, just make sure you're not crushing it.
yeah.
Type
And
stuff.
don't
But
bend it too much because it's eventually gonna break. So you want to put it together and leave it.
yeah, pretty much what it is once you've done this, you've pretty much you glue it together and then leave it alone.
Yeah,
This is
get a
something you.
box. Like people, like you don't need anything special. Like I love getting old empty paper boxes and just using that for all sorts of terrain and stuff.
Yeah.
You don't need like super, case or anything like that. Just a box that's packed relatively well, so it doesn't all just rattle around willy nilly when you
Yeah.
take in a corner.
So they say that you could use like just Elmer's glue, but I'm taking like super glue on this,
I mean, Elmer's glue will work fine.
just so. Oh, I have to pull that part out.
Yes, you do.
Missed that piece. But this just makes it. Super glue just makes it quicker and easier and sets.
Yeah, super glue works.
Yeah. Type thing. But I mean, there's is a terrain. It's a sci-fi. They don't make a fantasy version of their stuff yet.
Yeah, I mean, fantasy scatter terrain is more difficult, and honestly, a lot of the fantasy games don't necessarily favor that. And that's actually probably should be our first topic of what type of terrain is good for your game.
Yeah. So let's take the fantasy side of it because there's a lot more, and I wouldn't say a lot more, but there's fantasy terrain is different than, of course, sci-fi terrain. So let's take like Age of Sigmar, War Machine and Hordes, Malifaux. Now Malifaux is played on a 3x3, so I wouldn't say it's
So you're
less
breaking
terrain.
it down even more because honestly, there are different types of game there because Malifaux is true skirmish, while War Machine and Hordes and Age of Sigmar both have, let's call it quasi skirmish,
Yep.
because they are skirmish, but they have unit cohesion, so you need to be aware of that. And that's actually a real important first thing before even that is what kind of game are you have, because certain scatter trains good or certain types of train are good for pure skirmish, and some of them, well, I don't think there's any bad terrain for pure skirmish necessarily, but some of them are good for the quasi skirmish, the unit games that you wouldn't that or some of them are bad for that you wouldn't want to bring, like large pieces, like you were talking about that earlier with Warcaster. Large pieces are actually terrible for unit games.
Correct, because you have to move around them, and the
Mm-hmm.
problem is moving around them. You don't have a lot of room to move around them,
Uh-huh.
and that's the big issue. Um,
And
you
and
can't
it's not
fit
like it's
units
not like
through
it's
it.
terrible. But you have to keep in mind that if you put a big piece of terrain like that on the table, you are definitely affecting the game because it is a giant limiting factor, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But you have to be aware of it.
Well, you know what? Before we get really too big into it, I want to talk about one subject of that we need to go over, that terrain rules, because there are some terrain rules that are just like it's not really a rule. It's just, and there's no rule for the terrain. It's just there. You know what I'm saying? Um, I noticed that a lot of games are saying, and just an example, a forest is a line of sight blocking terrain unless you're so many inches into it and like a rough terrain.
Okay.
So,
Standard force rules, I call it.
yeah, this is standard. And so you would say, well, it takes you lose 2 inches of movement going through it until you're completely out of it.
Or half movement is actually the more industry standard, but
Yeah, I'm just saying as an example. And you can't see through it unless you're in it. So, type thing. That's one of the things. You can't see completely through it no matter how big it is
I
or
mean,
how
or
small it
older
is.
rules, some of them where you can only see so many inches out of forest,
Correct.
42.
But I've noticed that a lot of game companies are putting like tags on terrain. Like, you don't even have to say it's a forest. Just you choose this piece of terrain and then you put a tag on it of what the terrain has.
So you're talking about, I mean, in general, the only game I've seen actually do that is Malifaux.
Um, I know that
Well, I guess
whatchamacallit? Um,
Games Workshop kind of does that, but their terrain rules have always been kind of sketch.
Correct, and that's kind of the reason why I wanted to talk about it because there's some they are, and then there's some that just put too much. Like I saw this one piece of terrain in this one game, and it had like 7 tags on it, and I was like, "What?"
Well, I mean, if it's appropriate, like, so the thing about those tags is let you make terrain to be what they're supposed to be,
Yeah,
and it removes all doubt, you know, because you know what it is because it says exactly what it is.
yeah. But to me, a terrain should have something that it should have a tag or something on it that makes it, viable. Even if it's line of sight blocking. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, every terrain does something.
Yeah. You shouldn't have a terrain piece that doesn't do something. Because if
I
it
mean,
doesn't do something, it just looks pretty.
I mean, nothing wrong with looking pretty, but then you're looking pretty and taking up real estate on the table, which now, and the difference is if you're demoing a game, you can have plenty of stuff that looks pretty. You want it to look pretty because you want to get eyeballs on the table.
Yeah.
But if you're playing a tournament, you don't want that stuff because it gets in the way.
Yeah. Because there's some tables that are just meant to be pretty.
Yeah. Well, yeah, look at the a lot of the old a lot of older tables are like the only thing you can add to them is scatter terrain. Everything else is set on the table. Remember those days when
Oh,
like you
yeah.
come in and there's a forest at that spot, and those are like okay for conventions and all. But at a local game store, you're going to quickly find that you're no longer interested in that table because you know it. Hey man, how you doing? Because I mean, you've played it so many times, you know where everything is. You know the distances by heart now and everything.
Yeah.
The thing about having modular terrain that we've been doing so much nowadays is that it gives you a lot of options to change it around.
Yeah. There's got to be, in my opinion, the terrain needs to mean something or do
Mm-hmm.
something. Unless you're doing a demo table, then yeah, I can understand. It's a pretty table.
You still want some. You at that point you'd put some of the pretty stuff like in the areas people aren't going to go to because you're going to go to the middle and fight.
Yeah, you put it on the sides or whatever
Uh-huh.
type thing. Um, and terrain to me should mean something in that fact because height is a different concept in different games too. Because some games don't have height rules, as in like falling damage, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
And it all
In fact,
depends.
most games above a skirmish level don't generally have falling damage.
Correct. So it
So
would
you
be kind of interesting. Like I know games are starting to move to that, but like I don't see the reason for like Age of Sigmar to have it type thing.
no, there's no reason to have it because it's a unit game. Like
Yeah.
you're not going to have falling damage. And honestly, even in the games that have it, I have not seen a ton of times it's actually ever come into play.
Yeah. I
Because you
did
need to
say
add something to make it happen. Like I've seen it in of all games, I think I've seen it more saw it more in Relic Knights than anything else. And yeah, I know you're like Relic Knights, what?
oh my god.
Yeah, we actually played games of that, sir.
I did have it with Warcaster because I was able to pull a model off of the top of a building.
So they use small units in that game, and I think
Correct.
that's problematic to have those rules in that game. But
I pulled a Warjack off of a building and made it fall with a spell. So I mean, height for things also depends on it, and the amount of terrain also.
well, that's different. So we're getting into multiple things there. Like
Yeah,
so the first is the tags. Tags are good.
yeah,
Like and Gonzo may have a problem with the terrain please having 7 tags, but if it's necessary, it's necessary.
yeah. I think it needs. Yeah, I think that's the key word. If it's necessary, yes. A
Mm-hmm.
forest doesn't need 7 tags, in my opinion.
I mean, no. I mean, it should have whatever the forest tag is for the line of sight blocking, unless through, not into or out of.
Yeah.
And then it has to have maybe a height if that matters. Though I mean, a lot of games just say they're infinitely high or high enough that it doesn't matter. And other than that, there might be other tags on it. I mean, so we can get this is multi-layered. Like so when I forget which edition it is. When the last edition of Warhammer Fantasy came out, they had a lot of weird terrain things, and the players did not adopt them. Just too bad because they're very cool. They'd have all sorts of cool terrain like that would do crazy things, and that's actually interesting in a game. But you got to know your audience, you know. Like having terrain that does stuff could be cool in a Malifaux, but people don't want that in Age of Sigmar. People definitely don't want that in a War Machine. They don't want the train to do a fucking thing other than stand there and
Do
have
its
its couple
basic needs.
tags. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So you look at that, and I think
I think
you need to go through the train in your rule book for your game and make sure you understand the basics of it.
going back to your thing about terrain that does stuff,
Mm-hmm.
besides the normal tags, I think that's really good for like story or league games
Yeah, absolutely.
because then it's unique, and I can
So
see
Gonzo,
people.
I'd actually put glue on the corners of that because that's where the stress points are going to be because they're
Oh,
hanging overhanging. So be aware.
yeah, it's solid.
I was just saying it's going to be a stress point. You know what I mean? The corners. Don't mess with them, but that's where it's going to come apart.
Um,
But yeah, it's great for. I mean, so campaigns. So first thing, it's like campaigns and all that stuff. Like throw your rules out the window, like because you're doing fun stuff then. So it matters a lot less what the quote unquote rules say. But go through your terrain rules, make sure you understand the basics of it so you can define it real quick. Malifaux has a bunch of tags that go on terrain, just so you can know what it is. Is it blocking? Is it climbable? Is it destructible? You know, all sorts of stuff like that. Height of it. In fact, Malifaux may have one of the more robust, read, potentially complicated terrain rules left in the industry right now. Maybe that in like Infinity.
yeah. So if you're going to be playing, and like I said, we're going to standard. You're playing Malifaux. How many pieces of terrain? It is played on a 3x3. How many pieces of terrain do you usually have? What should be the standard pieces of terrain?
Well, I mean,
Amount.
people like to have an amount of terrain, but the size of it matters. Bigger pieces. So bigger pieces mean you need to have a little less.
Correct.
Generally speaking, of every game you play, you should take a quarter of the battlefield and fill it 100% with terrain. Almost every game has that listed as a rule or a guideline. Um, for most games, that should be your minimum. Even like the 40K in Fantasy, the GW Fair, you should have a quarter of the field filled with that. Because you're going to need it, or terrain's not going to matter so much.
Yeah, blocking line of sights, I think, is very, very important in a game for any game out there nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Malifaux, you can attack someone turn 1A if you have no line of sight blocking type stuff.
I mean, if you've
Or
got sniper
improper
rifles and all,
placing.
yeah. I mean, it is possible to start murdering on just right away.
Yeah.
And there's no turn 1A. It's a alternating activation game, sir.
Correct. I'm just saying before the as soon as the game starts, first round.
It's very difficult,
But it is
but
possible.
it's possible, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's break it down by game. Malifaux. Give me an idea of what you think Malifaux terrain should have and size and structure. Now, also theme is also another thing.
Um,
Do you think they should have a theme?
so here I'm going to say to you, theme is a luxury.
Correct.
Having terrain is good enough. Having a theme for your terrain is a luxury. If you can do it, it's cool. If you cannot, don't sweat it.
Correct.
I mean, Malifaux, you need blocking stuff. You should really look at the rules for the terrain and have a little bit of everything in there. Like you don't necessarily have to have a bunch of hazardous terrain, but you should be aware of what it does and you should think about it. Like, is there cool hazardous terrain stuff we can have? Maybe, maybe not. Just think about that stuff before you start putting it before you start figuring out what you're going to put down. but you need like a couple buildings or big blocking stuff. I would say in every game, and I'm going to say this out there, pretty much you should have a terrain piece big enough that the largest model in the game can hide behind it. If you don't, you done fucked up unless the game says you shouldn't.
Correct, unless the model says like this model cannot be blocked by line of sight due
Yeah,
to
yeah,
its
yeah.
large
And
structure.
even like something like before you could be like, well, you that big? Like, you mean your Imperial Knights should have something they can hide behind? If you didn't have something that an Imperial Knight can hide behind, I'm not going to be super upset. But I mean, you should be looking for something that big. It's a great centerpiece in addition.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you don't have if because that's where problems come in, like first turn shooting. If there's nothing that stuff can hide behind, then you're just going to get shot as soon as you show up, and it changes the balance of a game in favor of an all shooting army. So definitely try to have something big. Uh, like if you're going out and buying terrain, then you want to be buying on a theme, and you want to be getting stuff that is, gonna do what you want and cover a lot of bases. So for a Malifaux, you definitely want a big building or something. Could be theoretically a big forest if you really want. Something big to take up some real estate and make it so that you can't necessarily just fire across the board initially. But Malifaux is good to remember that you're going to put the train down, and then you're going to see your deployment later, and it might not be what you think. And that sort of comes into deploying terrain. You should be thinking about how you're going to deploy stuff when you have it. You know, if you're playing 40K and you've got this giant long piece of terrain, you don't want to put that in the center of the board. As much as you want to put it in the center of the board, you really don't want to put it in the center of the board. But let's go. Let's say Malifaux. Malifaux, yeah, just start with the big stuff. Get appropriate scatter terrain, trees, lampposts. They're functionally the same in that game. Just stuff people can hide behind. You want a combination of cover, concealment, uh, you know, fully blocking terrain, stuff like that. It's hard to say exactly what, because honestly, if you do enough of certain types, you can make it work. If you've got a forest and you say, okay, the boundaries of all the trees is the forest, you can't shoot through it or something. The forest as a whole is blocking the individual trees as you get in there. Might block or might give you cover, what have you. Read the rules and use them to your advantage. Talk to your opponent about it. Don't forget this is a two-person game at least.
What?
Yeah, I know. You want to be talking to your opponent about what's fair and balanced for that. And you'll get that soon enough as you play it. But so Malifaux, like actually the easiest. You just want various old westy style terrain. You can have hay bales, and you can have just crates and stuff, just standard wooden crates, wooden barrels. That kind of stuff makes good scatter terrain. You can have just standard buildings. You can also go out in the swamp and all that. That's the thing. There's a lot of wilderness areas. So I feel like you've got a lot of options there. If you want to use like big rocky stuff, that's cool. Just make sure you've got stuff that people can hide behind. You're not going to get a couple snipers sitting on one side of the board, owning the whole board. Because it can happen. I've done it. It's rude.
Which is a very common thing on almost all games, is you don't want to have it where
yes,
people just can sit there and just blow you away, and you have nowhere to go, and you can't hide behind anything.
Yeah, so like I said, Malifaux really open a lot more individual pieces, but you do want a couple of big pieces too.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about War Machine and Hordes, Gonzo, since I don't play that shit anymore.
So War Machine and Hordes, and I really like it because a lot of players, of course, the game was the 2D terrain for the longest time.
Yep.
And
let's start. Certain things are great in 2 dimensions.
Correct.
Trenches, water features, even to an extent, hills can be if they're not blocking, but that's just because hills are problematic to stand on.
Correct. It's just a pain in the butt, and models fall over, etc., etc. But a lot of people have been moving away from that and doing what's called 2.5 is what people are calling it terrain. 2.5 dimension. You still have the map, the little mouse pad, but then you put terrain on top of the mouse pad. That way things can be
We've done that for trees for forever.
Correct, yeah. And now that, but they're doing it for like everything. So like buildings, everything's everything.
We had an idea, like if you have a building, get a 2D building that's the exact outline of that building, so you can move it when you need to for measuring or whatever.
Correct.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Honestly, the tree idea has been in use for a while, and actually, I would suggest that for anything that uses tree templates.
Yes.
Use that rule. Use it for your 40K. Use it for your Age of Sigmar. Use it for anything that uses a idea of a outline of trees being a forest.
Yeah, because you want to be able to say that this is the forest, but you also want to be able to put troops on it within reason, and so that's the reason why you have removable trees.
Absolutely.
So you can just pick them up, put all the models on there, then put the trees back when you're done.
Yep. Arrange them so it looks cool if you want to take a picture.
Yeah. Also, walls. They're just a simple template. Everybody now can make...
I mean, everyone should have walls for their game. I mean, you just have to have the right kind for your game.
Yeah. Line of sight blocking. War Machine and Hordes has... now we're waiting for the new rule set, but as of right now, they don't want you... They want you to have some type of...
Hydrate.
Some type of large line of sight blocking terrain as a minimum near the center or around the center area, so you don't have just this huge, open line of fire.
Asterisks. So let's talk about that now, since it's the appropriate point. Having a giant piece of terrain in the center of the board is good for blocking terrain, for blocking stuff. But if you have some sort of objective or anything that people need to get to in the center, you need to balance your need to block line of sight with your need to actually get to the objective.
Correct.
Playability is first.
Yeah, and usually, like if like a TO will set up the terrain and do everything, and then they're like, hey, this, the objective is supposed to be right in the center of this building. Nobody can get to it. And the TO comes in and fixes it, either moves the building to one side or, whatever, just to make it where it's playable then.
That's why the more I look at it from other games, I hate the zone control mechanic from War Machine and Hordes, but it's all you got. That kind of thing, it is better to have a forest in the center, because the forest will block you shooting entirely through it. It'll be far enough up that they can't easily get there like first turn.
Yeah.
And it is still terrain you can occupy for taking the zone.
Correct.
So look at stuff like that when you're choosing your terrain and all that. Marvel Crisis Protocol, if you have a piece of terrain no one can stand on, do not fucking put that anywhere an objective would be.
Yeah. Move the building. Move whatever. Move it around the objective.
Yes.
Doesn't have to be symmetrical. It doesn't because there's...
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Symmetry is something the brain wants to do, but for terrain it doesn't have to be. You want maybe a slight balance. You maybe want, since a lot of games nowadays are, if you're not going first, you choose the side.
Correct.
Give one side a slight advantage to negate the advantage of going first.
Correct.
Like, we used to make a lot of War Machine and Hordes boards where you go there and you're like, oh, I really want to choose side. And that is a success.
Correct.
If choosing whether you go first or choose sides is a thing, you have made a good board.
Correct. You want to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be able to say, oh crap, this building is going to be in the way, or hey, I don't have a Pathfinder unit to get through the forest quick enough.
Yep.
Type thing. So you want that type of stuff to be meaningful.
Yep. So what else you got for War Machine terrain?
They do have hazardous type terrain where if you walk through it, you either take damage, and everybody has that. One of the rules they do have currently now is you have to be able to... The terrain has to be far enough apart that a colossal can fit through. So you can't have two pieces of impassable terrain that nobody can walk on. Close. Let me finish. So close that a colossal can't get through. But I kind of see that as a, you brought a Colossal. Sorry.
That's what I was gonna say. I will take bad rules for 900.
Yeah.
Because so I've played on one of Jan Falange's, the Double Squid's boards for things where he just like literally it was all walls. It was like walls everywhere. And I had a Colossal. I'm like, well, I gotta be really careful because I can't go everywhere.
Correct. That's
and,
a good tactic.
I took that as a, it kind of sucks to be put on the board like that, but it's something you got to deal with.
I went to a tournament and there was an individual, and we had that a ton of walls type thing, and people couldn't, the Colossals had problems getting around it, and both of his lists was playing 2 Colossals, and I was like, you're fucked.
Made your list, yeah.
Yep. Type thing. And so I just totally, completely won that game because he brought 2 lists that just couldn't interact with the table.
Yeah. Now, that being said, if you're making a table, the Colossals should be able to get around. They have to be able to get from one side of the table to the other. If they're stuck on one half of the table, you've made a poor table.
Correct. This was
but
a poor
they
table.
don't have to be able to go through the center. They don't have to be able to go through the center.
Correct.
They might have to come around the side. I had one. That one I had to have the Colossal come around the side of the table. It couldn't get in the zone, so I used it to keep shit out of the zone. I'd come around and just start killing stuff. Maybe other troops do stuff. I mean, you can make that work. And honestly, War Machine Horde is the only game that's going to have that particular problem. 40K kind of has that problem, but no one puts that much terrain on a 40K table. Let's just be honest. So War Machine Horde also had in the past the worst terrain feature ever.
Which one was that?
Deep water.
Oh my god.
Until someone takes Shay, who's aquatic, and just walks into the deep water, and they just can't do anything to him.
Yeah. And that got
him. Yeah, they got rid of it because they had to.
Yeah.
That's the idea. That's one of those things that comes out. That's a early game rule. Like, oh, this will be cool. And then you're like, oh no, this isn't cool. This is busted and broken. Because I mean, if you put deep water down, everyone's trying to throw another warjack into that because it kills it.
For people that didn't know, if a terrain feature had deep water, anything that fell down, if a warjack fell down in it, it was gone, completely gone.
No. Deep water, if you were in it, you were dead, not fall down.
Shallow water, they still have
shallow water. If you fall down, you turn off. You have to,
and so that was one of the rules. But
role playing rules, not good tournament rules. Good war game rules, but. So that's War Machine. Yeah, uses kind of terrain. War Machine tend to use a little less terrain, I think, than other games, because again, it is a unit game. So you don't want like a giant building that might be cool in one game is not cool in War Machine Hordes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because we're gonna get new terrain rules when the new edition hits. So it'd be interesting to see what those are. I mean, we've gotten some stuff, and some things are not in there anymore, and it's more like tags than just rules. Like they brought back hills. Hills are back in the game. But
it was humorous, let's say, that they got rid of hills because they couldn't fix their fucking rules.
Correct.
I don't mind calling them out on that because that's terrible. Yeah. You got to fix your rules.
Hills came back. I think they got currently in the beta. They got rid of Windswept, but they put something else in its place, kind of in a way. But we're waiting to see. It's all beta. They said they're not finished. We'll just have to wait and see. But this is all in the Steamroller packet, not base rules. Best way to put it.
So what terrain does Warcaster use?
Warcaster uses 3D terrain. And terrain that really you want height on it. You want terrain with height so you can climb ladders and go across bridges, and like an infinity table if that helps you out.
You do not want to play on an infinity table.
Warcaster
will not work on an infinity table, and we'll talk about that when we talk about infinity.
You want terrain that has a lot of cover because there are weapons that can shoot pretty far. Vehicles that can move far. You want things with you just want a lot of cover. You don't want a lot of, open space. So you want to have large amounts of terrain. You want to have high pieces too, because it does have elevation rules. It does have climbing rules. stuff like that. So you want that. Sorry, but you're gonna have to be careful with that because, like I said, I was playing in a tournament and this gentleman put a war jack on top. He had a jack that could fly, and it went up to the very top of this building, and I think it was like 2 foot high. And I had a spell, put quotes around it, that lets me grab that model and pull it off. And, well, it pulled the jack off and did damage to it. Didn't do a lot, but it did enough to, make him go, oh shit, I'm not going to do that again.
And I will say that is a flaw in the rules.
That I could pull a model off?
No, that you could pull a flying model off and have it do damage. The thing about flying models is...
the model didn't have technically flight. He just gave it the card that gave it flight for a turn.
Oh. Well, that's better, but the problem is, so you have to think about that stuff because you want height and all, but see, I'm torn on that as a game thing. I don't want to get too far into it because you're having height and that's cool, and then you're punishing people for it. It makes people not want to do that.
Yeah. Well, they also have in there that you can jump in the game. So you can jump over crevices and stuff.
That is not... Wow. That is not a rule that's normally in that scale of game.
Yeah, that one I think is the most unique
that's
one I've
like
seen.
That's like a Necromunda rule, where a single model jumps over. Having a unit jump over is really...
Well, they do the U1 move, and then you drop the rest of the unit next to it.
Still odd.
It is still odd. I've never done a jump, really, so I have no clue.
So I'm not surprised. Most games where you have that, they don't.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, like you said, you said like an infinity table, but I would say it's like a light infinity table, not an actual infinity table.
You do want a lot of terrain, and you want to be able to move and juke and hide behind things because cover is very important in Warcaster. It gives you really good bonuses. So having cover is very important in this game.
Well, we can jump into that to Infinity, where Infinity is the master of you need cover because cover is super important.
Because you can do things not on your turn.
Yep. We need to be in cover because it gives them a penalty to hit you and also gives you extra protection against stuff.
Correct.
Infinity tables actually tend to be the most heavily terrained.
I'm going to tell you right now, and it is a TO's worst nightmare.
Can be if you're not familiar, but at the point you're running an Infinity game, I think you're pretty familiar with how it works.
Yeah, if you're running, you got to be extra prepared. If you're running an Infinity tournament, you got to start looking for terrain way,
Like, hold on. Like, it's no harder than running another game because when you run games, you tend to ask your players for help. Your players have appropriate terrain. It's no harder than any other game.
Well, I'm just saying.
Unless you're trying to run it at a convention where you don't have a local Infinity group, in which case, good luck.
Correct. Someone had asked Warfare Weekend if they would run an Infinity tournament, and I says, well, we would need, help with terrain because it's such a terrain-heavy game.
It is.
And it's good. The tables look awesome, too. If you ever go to a tournament with Infinity terrain, you're like, oh, these are freaking cool. But it is a huge amount of terrain.
And Infinity's got all those rules, climbing, jumping, all sorts of stuff like that.
Yes.
Some models have skills to climb and or jump better.
Yep. I played Toha, and I had a few models I liked because they could jump very far distances with ease. I didn't have to roll or anything.
Yep, that super jump is good.
Yep. And I was like, I thought that was cool as shit.
And it is funny that Infinity, technically, there's a joke in the Infinity community that there are 3 types of tables. There's an American style, which is long firing lanes, not a super ton of terrain.
Which is very bad in Infinity.
European style, which is super dense and tags have a hard time getting everywhere. And then there's balanced table, which is somewhere in between the two. That is definitely a game where you want to make sure that the largest scaled models can get through most of the board. I've seen people make tables where they couldn't a lot, and I'm like, you can't do that because you're just trying to make someone not take it because you don't like it.
Yeah.
There's no reason to not have that balance like that. So But that's one of the things you learn when you play the game. So it is definitely the most terrain intensive game as far as actual terrain, not just scatter terrain.
Because you also have scatter terrain on top of that too.
Yeah, but scatter terrain's easy.
Yeah, crates and barrels
Yeah,
and barriers are easy to kind of.
standard sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
40K is probably going to be the most lightly terrained game. Because those guys can't be arsed. They want to line up and shoot each other a lot of times.
Yeah.
Now, you will, of course, see some of the ones who just want to play a good game and have good terrain. In general, though, you'll have... GB makes their own terrain, so obviously you see a lot of their terrain. Not all of it is actually great for playing 40K with, as funny as that is. But better on Kill Team, but Kill Team sort of scales the same way as something like an Infinity or Necromunda. Those games all sort of have the same sort of scale of terrain, where relatively dense, you want to stop long fields of fire. 40K, you should. Miami's asking what kind of terrain you're building.
This is Tinker Turfs, crates, and something or other terrain. It's really simple, really easy. This one is a very easy set. I've seen some complicated ones. Not saying that they're perfect, but this is a very easy. I mean, I've gotten through almost the entire packet in 45 minutes or so.
Yeah. Yeah. So 40K and to a lesser extent Age of Sigmar are going to have less terrain overall. You should have some big blocking stuff so people can hide behind it. I think more 40K, it's not so much the quality of terrain that people bring, it's how they set it up.
Yeah.
They like to set it up where it's all on one side, all on the other side, in the middle is a giant killing ground, and that is not good. The best terrain is a good balance of it all. 40K is easy to get terrain for because 40K, I mean, everyone makes terrain for 40K scale. They'll use scatter terrain just like all the rest of the ones we're talking about. In fact, them and Infinity tend to share the same scatter terrain in a lot of places.
Yeah. Well, it's like this terrain can be used. I mean, it is a sci-fi styled terrain, so it could be used for anything sci-fi related. No biggie.
Yeah, it looks like it'd be good for either one.
Yeah, could be used for Necromunda.
Yeah, like the biggest difference between Age of Sigmar and 40K that I've seen is is just that one is more fantasy terrain, the other one's more sci-fi terrain.
I do want to talk about getting terrain, not just because I mean, you and I remember the days where we would go, "Dang, someone's got a new box. What kind of styrofoam was in it?" Oh, that styrofoam looks like a cool base.
So I don't actually remember those days, Gonzo. You forget that I started gaming in a Games Workshop town.
Oh, that's right.
It was not hard to get good terrain. I mean, you go to Games Workshop, they would teach you how to make terrain, buy terrain. I mean, honestly, it's when they started doing trees and stuff, so it was a lot easier for you to get the terrain.
I just remember anytime someone opened up like a box full of stuff, people were like, "Ooh."
I mean, we would all save styrofoam for that purpose. Some very skilled terrain makers would make cool stuff out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, nowadays it's easy peasy. Like honestly, most companies will have a terrain, either their own terrain or a company that does terrain for them.
Correct. Or if you're cool enough and you own a 3D printer, well, you pretty much have all your terrain that you ever want.
You're still probably going to want to supplement it because some of those bigger things are not necessarily going to be easy to get done and or necessarily cost effective.
Oh, well, I can tell you that I can build pretty much anything just depending on your printer size. Let's go with that. Depending on whether you're using a resin or an FDM printer, depends on whether you're going to be doing like scatter terrain or big terrain pieces.
Yeah. For example, I bought the Sanctum Sanctorum from a company before they put out their own. And that is not something you're going to want to 3D print.
If
it's
you have
giant. I mean, it's still...
If you have a 3D printer that can do it, more power to you.
You could try it. I would just be careful.
Well, yeah, well, a lot of places that do like what you have right there, they usually sell the STLs, and they're actually done without support. You just put them in the machine and you're done. Slice it and you're good to go. Ugh.
But yeah, so yeah, 3D terrain's coming. I mean, it's great. I think it's great for scatter terrain. I think the larger the pieces, the more you want to start looking elsewhere. MDF terrain is great because it's easy to work with, easy to put together, and there's a ton of companies that make good stuff.
Yeah.
Like honestly, that is sort of the gold standard for Infinity. Is there's a ton of companies that make just big MDF terrain.
One of them out there that is one of our sponsors is Death Ray Design. They make
Death Ray Design is a sponsor? Oh, one of your sponsors.
Yeah, one of my sponsors for Warfare Weekend.
So, Death Ray Design is good stuff. I've actually been using their base inserts for years.
They have some good
yeah, they're good.
Infinity
and
terrain.
Also, good dude.
Yeah.
He made a specific base insert for me for something that had come out because it was an odd size base. He said, "Had me take measurements, charged me a very fair fee for it, and made it." So, good company. But you'll find the company you like. Death Ray Designs. There's a bunch from Warsenal makes a bunch of the Infinity terrain. I've got some of their stuff. It's good.
Yep.
Who is it? Art of Michael Lavoie says Brutal Cities is also a great one for modern sci-fi and MDF. There you go. Brutal Cities. I'll take a look at that later. Also, I mean, look at everything. I mean, I don't know if you can still get much of the Battlefield in the box from God, what's the name of that company? My brain stopped. It's in all the hobby stores. The Battlefield in the box stuff is good and has a lot of use. They make a lot of, let's just say, might as well be Star Wars specific. I don't even know if they still make it, but GF9. God, I couldn't remember the name. They're relatively
Gale Force 9. Oh.
Yeah. They have good terrain. They make a lot of just solid resin stuff that's just chunky. And some of it's sort of God, how should I put it? There's a lot of it. I have a bunch that's sort of Star Wars related because it looks like the huts from Tatooine, but not exactly, and all that. You can get for a solid, for not a bad price. You can get a bunch of cool stuff that will definitely help your terrain a lot. Find places that make trees. I forget the name of it. My buddy's got a bunch of them, but there's some real cool trees out there now. But yeah, just take a look at it. You'll find the stuff.
Yeah, my Star Wars Legion table I printed an entire table of like Tatooine terrain because somebody had pretty much an entire Tatooine set.
Mm-hmm.
And so I printed it off. Now, it did take me like 3 weeks to print it all off, but I mean, I printed it all off and then I used, I painted it and had texture paint from, a spray can, that stone paint or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And so I was able to do that. And it turned out great and turned out fine. But of course, like I said, it's all FDM printing, so that takes quite a while to do. But hey, it was cheaper to do that than buy it. For me, it was because I already owned the printer.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've got it there. And like, I just buy the terrain because also a lot of times I'll find it on sale someplace. That's a big thing I'll buy on sale. Also, if you're playing modern stuff, don't discount going to a train store.
Oh yeah,
actual hobby town or something, and getting some whatever scale it is, H or HO.
Now Marvel, MCP, I should say, not Marvel, but MCP. They've got terrain that's like that, and they sell their own terrain sets, and some people make terrain sets just for Marvel.
Yep. In fact, they're probably the easiest to make a full table for, just from what they've got.
And it's a pretty dense table too, right?
Yeah, you probably want to supplement with some little stuff for more lower sized scatter. Because you're throwing stuff, so you're going to want all that stuff. But they got like the apartment building. They come with the box game comes with terrain. So I mean, you got to look at that. I mean, it's honestly, They're probably the easiest to go with, and I like their stuff very much. Easy to put together, the cars and all that. But you can find all sorts of stuff out there. Just make sure you're taking a look at all this stuff. Obviously, I actually think it's easier to find sci-fi stuff than to find fantasy stuff. But don't discount any of it. Take a look at the Games Workshop stuff too. It's a premium price, but I hate to say it's a premium product too.
Yeah.
Like their terrain stuff's good, I regularly will get I bought their first Kill Teams box because it came with terrain. Most of their stuff comes with it because it's just good terrain. They make good crates. They're plastic. Giant shipping containers. You may not put all the extra, the storm bolter on top, which is really stupid, but it is what it is. But that stuff's good if you need big crates. Infinity actually was doing a bunch of just cardboard terrain that would come in their certain sets, and their empty boxes would fit inside of it to give it extra structure. Was the greatest idea.
Yeah, I thought that was very. When I first bought it, I was like, okay, that's pretty legit.
Oh yeah.
All right, so I put together this one whole set in 45 minutes, give or take.
Yeah.
And so we've got 3.
I don't know what the big things are, but the rest looks good.
So we've got 3 of each type of crate, scatter terrain, if you want to say.
And they're all a little different.
Yeah, a little different. Then they're little cargo holders, so you can actually put the terrain in it if you want to. Or it could just be, something that you put on the board. You can leave it like that. You can shoot through it, climb on it, jump off. Whoa!
You shoot through it from certain directions, which is important because that means you can actually block line of sight from one way, but not from another.
Yeah. And then everything can store inside of here. So, I mean, you could technically, instead of putting, this out on the table by itself, you could put these 2 pieces on there, and then you've got that. So, that wasn't too bad.
When you're looking for terrain, don't discount anything. Look at all the sources. Talk to people. They're going to know what terrain's good and all that. You'll find a little bit of terrain can go a long way.
Yeah. Some terrain is better than no terrain.
Just use whatever. I got jungle or alien trees and stuff from my old GW set. I just put them on a old forest template from War Machine of Hordes, and that just makes it look cool. It's like, oh, here's a forest thing we can pull it off if you need to walk through it or anything, depending on what the rules are for it.
So I didn't get to put together, so there was one more thing on this, and it's a tanker. Like, here's the round piece of it.
Oh, we didn't even get to talk about, small scale terrain. Because I got all that terrain I got for Battletech.
Oh, man, yeah.
Because Reaper does a bunch of stuff that scale, if you want to go more than just 2D maps. But Battletech's a board game more than a miniatures game. So.
Correct, it is.
That's good to know. There's board games out there that have miniatures, and you don't necessarily need terrain for it. But you can. Nothing's stopping you.
It's your table. You do what you want.
Yep. I do love looking at the Marvel stuff when people get it together. I mean, some of it's a little expensive. Like, if you look at their apartment building, it's a bit expensive, but it's 3 stories tall. It's not small. That's like a centerpiece. And then their Sanctum Sanctorum, which is not the one I have, is a little bit taller than that. But I like you remember make your terrain appropriate too. If people can climb up a lot, make sure there's flat on top for you to fight on.
Yeah. Nothing's worse than having a model that has a cool terrain rule and not having the terrain on the table to use it.
Yep. People would used to limit the type of terrain because I don't want to deal with it. Look, if it's a rule in the game, you need to have terrain for it. When aquatic was a rule, you need to have water terrain so those aquatic models can do something with it.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind when you're making terrain and choosing your terrain. And realize that it's not always going to be quick and easy. Sometimes it's going to take some time for you to get a feel for what terrain should look like. Take some notes while you're playing the games. Okay, this didn't work. This did work. Let's tweak it a little bit. It's media section time.
It is. Hold on a second.
Not that I have a lot to talk about.
You have like 75 things to talk about because you were
Yeah.
so enamored by TV this week that you had to.
I mean, it's 2 weeks and still no.
Okay, cool. All right. So the only thing I have left to do, so probably about an hour, and I probably would have had all this done. I just have this tanker to finish. And pretty much what it is this tanker. These pieces go on to here type thing, and then this goes in the center of it like this, rounded. So it's just a tinker piece. So I mean, it's a good scatter terrain table, or
That's
scatter
actually,
terrain.
I would not call that scatter. That's actually legitimate terrain.
Yeah, with some scatter pieces. Okay. Let's get this flipped around. Make sure you just get some good tables terrain. Have a good time with your tables. I actually had a demo table when I was a PG, and it had every terrain feature on it. I bought the 8x4 blue styrofoam and cut it down and made it, and I like dug a trench in it and put a bunch of things on it, and so everything else. Oh, let me go and do this. And that was just it was meant to be a demo table, like using a tournament type thing. But I always thought that was really fun to have that stuff and just make a cool, beautiful terrain table for a demo.
Yeah. And we'll be, I'm trying to get some pictures next time at my buddy Marshall's because he's got some good terrain to give you an idea. Because we were making fun of terrain that was at, what was that terrain? What was that tournament? That convention?
Well, London Open. GT or whatever that was?
Nova Open. We were actually making fun of the terrain there because some of it, their Marvel terrain was fucking pathetic. Pathetic.
I also think that the Marvel terrain, that a lot of places are not used to it and are just trying to get a hold of it, because some people like, oh, what comes in the players, the starting box should be enough terrain to play a tournament, and I'm like, no.
2 of those at the absolute fucking minimum, and you probably should have a little more than that.
Yeah, Marvel tables, that's the reason why I want to say a big shout out to Adepticon. They are letting us borrow their MCP terrains for our tournament at Warfare Weekend. I mean, we have some, but we don't have enough. And it can be a very dense table terrain type thing to have. It doesn't
be super dense, but it needs to be, like, if you make a standard cityscape, if things are in the cityscape, you will have a solid terrain table.
Yeah.
You don't need to go every lamppost and bench and everything, but if you have those, it helps.
Yep, it does.
Those are size 0, and you can still throw them. They still might do a point of damage.
Yeah, so I mean, want to give a shout out to them, but I think a lot of places, because I think also NashCon people were complaining about the terrain, and I'm like, guys, you got to give you need to give people a little bit of slack. This is still a brand new game. 2, brand new game for tournament play within conventions. How about that?
No, stop. If someone is running the game, they should have knowledge of the game. If they have knowledge of the game, they know it needs more terrain than some of these places are doing. Don't defend them.
Yeah.
They're just wrong, and they need to fix it.
Yeah. Tell them, like, and give them like that. Somebody told us, it's like, hey, we want to see more terrain, and I'm like, okay.
Constructive criticism is great.
Constructive, and I'm like, yeah. Don't be a dick about it. Just say, hey, we think these tables are a little light on terrain. Can you get more terrain on there? And if you go back to next year and it's same or worse, then yeah.
And if those guys need more terrain, tell them about places you see terrain. There is I bought on Amazon. Basically, it's the Marvel terrain with the serial numbers filed off. It's just changed enough to be legally distinct, but it's all pretty much single piece stuff. And it was a cheaper price. And I'm sure if they contact them like, hey, I need X sets, they would probably do an even better deal.
Yeah. Just be courteous to people about it, because I mean,
courteous, but don't let them off the hook. But you don't have to be a dick about it.
Correct. Because there were some people that were a dick about it, and I'm like, guys,
But yes, the terrain was unfortunate. Let's talk about how we can make it bad. They can make it better.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of work to do terrain.
Early.
What people understand, there's a lot more work, especially if you want it all painted and looking pretty and everything else. It's a lot of work. I mean, I have people working nonstop on terrain for Warfare Weekend, and we're a little over a month away, and we're still trying to finish out terrain. So just think about places like Adepticon. They have terrain building parties and terrain fixing parties.
You're still there, but is this stuff repainted in depth or
the brutal cities?
Yeah.
Let's look. I'm taking a look real quick. Huh. Popular miniature wargaming kits.
I think it's not, but I mean, their pictures look really good. Show you what they can look like, which is super cool. Well, they carry Woodland Scenic stuff too. Bonus. To be honest, if someone's going to carry Woodland Scenics on their website in addition, that's a bonus, right?
Unsupplied, unassembled, and unpainted.
Okay, cool. Just curious. But yeah, check it out. I mean, I just put the link there, but they do carry Woodland Scenics. So you want to get some Woodland Scenic stuff?
Not bad price.
Actually, I think I've actually seen some of this before because I recognize the one name.
I mean, it's not bad price for it either. I mean, what's it made out of?
Oh, I think I'm stuck to the wrong state. Well, make sure you're in the right country. You remember my problem with
yeah.
GW when I was on Australian US prices. Yeah, I mean, some of it looks fine. Some of it's specific for games, which is cool. But, no, definitely worth taking a look at.
Doesn't say what it's made out of, though.
Definitely see, now here's what I would like to make a thing for. They have a bunch of what they call Zona Alpha, which is a Chernobyl Pripyat terrain. And I would like to get a table like that. That'd be a fun Marvel Crisis Protocol table. And plus, if you buy stuff from there, they actually donate profits to the Ukrainian Red Cross.
Which one was it? The bundles?
The Zona Alpha, under their stuff. They have a Pripyat bundle, which is got some terrain stuff. Might be cool to look at.
Kind of curious what it's made out of.
MDF.
Is it MDF?
Yeah, MDF. They say so.
Oh, okay. Just curious.
So, yeah. Definitely some interesting stuff there. Check it out.
And if you can find bundles like this, like here's an entire table for a 4x4, and it'll work for whatever, go for it. Like they have the Eternity Labs tournament table. I'm going to look at this real quick. Okay, and it looks like an infinity table. $282 for almost an infinity table.
So that's not bad. I mean, again, it's like almost the cost of the army again, but
one and you're done.
Yeah, one and you're done is cool, right?
Yep. And you can change it up however you want, but yeah, stuff like that's a good deal too. I like stuff like that.
So. And we can talk about terrain more if people have specific questions and all that. Yeah, Eternity Labs Tournament Battle. So I would call that, the way it's built there, that's an American-style table. Because it's got these long zones of
open areas
of fire, but you can supplement it with your favorite scatter terrain, and suddenly becomes not as big of a deal. Also, remember, you can take a table and turn it.
Yep.
45 degrees, and suddenly long zones become long zones you have to move to get to.
Correct.
And that's okay.
It doesn't have to be set up left to right, forward to backwards.
Yep.
Turn the entire table caddy corner, and it cuts off tons of lines of fire.
Yep.
Sure, you may have lines of fire corner to corner.
Having to move to lines of fire is okay because it's not start of the game. You're shooting fuckers. I have moved once or twice, and now I am shooting fuckers.
Correct.
So, anyways, we're 10 minutes into the media section. We're talking about terrain.
Which is okay. Not a big deal.
No.
So I have like 75 things to talk about, but I want to talk about some news before we get started in the media section. Because 2 bits of media news came out this week. They are making a Constantine 2 with Keanu Reeves.
Sounds like poor life choices to me, but okay.
I'm looking forward. Now, if it's done right.
To be fair, This is meant to be a continuation of the Constantine movie, not
Correct.
based off John Constantine, DC character. So
Correct.
it's actually fine. I actually own Constantine. I haven't watched it. I've seen parts of it. It looks like it's got a bad rap because it was not what people expected.
Yeah. Which I'm okay with. I like the Constantine movie. I had
Keanu
fun. I
Reeves.
like Keanu Reeves as Constantine. It was fun. So we'll have to wait and see. You never know. And then the biggest news, which I thought was very interesting, is Wesley Snipes is coming back as Blade for Secret Wars. Which I
That's a
was like,
multiverse thing.
I'm like, I
Because they've
thought
already.
I thought they were going to do the new guy.
They are. But this is a secret. This is a multiverse thing. You don't understand Secret Wars.
Yeah, no, I know, I understand Secret Wars. I just didn't think they would do it. I just didn't think they would bring
And
him.
needs a paycheck
Yeah. Well,
to pay taxes on.
yep. Which would be okay. Which would be cool. It'd be nice to see him come back as Blade because uh, those were some of the very first starting Marvel movies, and some of them were good, and some of them weren't good.
Blade is another in the rare series where it gets worse with every progressive sequel.
Yeah. But it's going to be nice to see him come back in that and everything because, I mean, he was the start of pretty much the Marvel movies, in my
Really
opinion.
wasn't. Like, he was the start of superhero movies being taken seriously.
There we go. That's what I'm looking for.
I mean, or Marvel, because honestly, you can go far back as you want. Technically, Michael Keaton's that Tim Burton's Batman was the first one of superhero movies taken fully seriously.
Yeah.
Because even Superman before that doesn't always hold up as well. It was great, but it was not. It was super duper comic book.
Yeah.
That's a plenty of discussion for another time when we talk about comic movies in depth.
So what's your first one?
My first, like I have multiple.
You got at least two, right?
We talk about trailers.
Okay. So let's talk about, because I talked about trailers last week. So what's your
God.
first thing you
I mean, if you talk about trailers last week, I ain't got much to talk about.
But it depends on what trailers we're talking about.
I mean, it's all the same ones: Willow and Andor. And...
Well, I do want to hear your opinion on that stuff too, anyway, because you weren't here. But
so Willow looks good. I am pleased to see it is not necessarily based off the book series that was a continuation that George Lucas and Christopher Claremont, quote unquote, wrote, which means probably Christopher Claremont with ideas from George Lucas. But hey, it is what it is. Because certain things I've seen, I don't want to spoil in case it does go that direction, that lead me to believe it is not that story at all, which is good. Something new, something more of a proper continuation. The books were good, but a little weird shock in it. So, I mean, obviously you're not getting Val Kilmer back. I mean, just happy Val Kilmer could have been it was in Maverick, because let's be honest, he's not in good shape.
yeah, well, they did say that they're having a friend of Mad Mardigan's in here, played by Christian Slater. So
Okay,
yeah,
interesting.
I thought it was an interesting choice.
I
But hey,
generally enjoyed Christian Slater, even though his Jack Nicholson impersonation has gotten really fucking old.
it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, looks good. I mean, Warwick Davis looks great as Willow. It looks like it's going to be fun. I am here for it. I am much more excited for that than I am for Rings of Power, because Willow is much more my fantasy childhood than Lord of the Rings.
I'm looking forward to it. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. That's what I think is more anything.
I think that's more than anything is Rings of Power seems like, and I'm still only one episode in, don't judge me. Yeah. Much more serious business, and Willow looks like it's a good combination. Looks like it's like the movie. It's some serious stuff, but let's have some fun.
Correct.
So I'm super looking forward to that. I will try to keep up with it weekly.
Let me talk about one of the movies I watched and I caught up on it, and you've already done anything, was Love and Thunder.
Oh, okay. Sure. What's up, Love and Thunder?
I watched Love and Thunder. It was just okay.
Yeah.
There were some good scenes, and then there were some stuff that was like, eh.
For spoilers, if anyone doesn't like spoilers, it's on Disney Plus, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah.
The whole Stormbringer is jealous of Mjolnir's ship. This just fucking Christ.
Yeah,
like you said. I mean, the Guardians in the beginning of the movie it was not good.
No.
The goats grew on you because you're like, they come out of nowhere and you're like, okay, now the goats are funny.
Yeah. Now the
Literally, you
goats.
take that first bit of the movie off, and it's like a weird combination of cringe humor and actual funny stuff here or there.
Correct.
But I actually feel like if they actually just told a serious story, a semi-serious story, not a you couldn't go 100% serious because the subject matter is dark.
Yeah.
You know, Jane Foster with cancer is fucking dark. People can't necessarily handle that. The humor, I think, to a point, was needed to lessen the impact of that.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. It wasn't. It gives me like that 2.5. It was like meh.
I mean, I go 2. It's better than an average movie because the stuff that was great was fucking great. The whole quasi black and white fight thing was great.
That was cool.
Natalie, or what's her name? Was it Natalie Portman? Natalie Portman?
Yeah.
She was good. Tessa Thompson was good. I mean, most of the actors were good. The whole thing with Zeus was funny. That was actually a humorous scene. Christian Bale was great.
Oh, he was really good. I liked him a lot. He was my favorite.
Another understandable villain, like way too far, but understandable.
Correct.
And another ending that wasn't just we beat up the villain and win.
Yes.
I definitely better than a 2.5. Probably not better than a 2.
Yeah, I mean, it was meh.
Yeah, and I think the real problem is, I don't think that the director is right for this. I don't think he's the right director.
No, I don't think so
I
either.
think he could direct the fuck out of a Deadpool movie. I think he would make a Deadpool movie that fucking just hit. Or a Suicide Squad movie that just hit. I just don't think he hits all the notes in this movie.
Correct.
Like, because I saw Free Guy, and Free Guy was great. Yeah. I felt like all the humor hit the right notes, but that's more comedy first. And I don't think a Marvel movie needs to become comedy first. You can have comedy. Like, remember, I am of lesser opinion that I actually still think that the first Thor movie is the best Thor movie.
I can agree with that.
I mean, people don't have to agree with me. People love Thor Ragnarok. It's fine. If you do, it's art. I just think the first Thor movie is still the best. Doesn't mean I'm not going to watch the other stuff. It was interesting. It was fun.
Yeah.
I think Thor, as a character, Thor is like Batman. He is better with his team than he is on a solo adventure.
Yeah. But, I mean, it was, like I said, it was okay. It was better than a poke in the eye with a stick.
Xander Bullard says, I like the theory that when Thor is narrating the movie, he is censoring the truth because it was actually darker than what it was told. I like that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was fine. I mean, it was the worst Marvel movie this year. But, I mean, lowest out of those three. I mean, it was a little bit worse than Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Yep.
Probably get about a 1.5. And definitely both were way worse than No Way Home, which I would call the second best movie this year.
What do you got?
She-Hulk.
Yeah, so this episode, we won't spoil it because it's this week.
I also watched the last episode that I thought was very humorous.
Yeah, last episode was pretty good.
I watched that before the podcast aired, but I wasn't on the podcast, so that didn't matter, did it?
I enjoyed last week's episode a whole lot more than I thought I would.
I would say this is probably the worst episode of the group, but it's still fine.
Yeah, it's still good.
If you're not bothered by certain things, it won't bother you. If you're bothered by certain things, you might go, "Hey, wait a minute."
Yeah.
Funny. I wish there was some action in it. Sorry, there's not really any action in it.
No.
But this is a comedy first series, and you need to realize that. It is just shy of a sitcom. There is deeper stuff in this, but they're not really focusing on it yet. And as I talked to when Not Brushhead Dave and No Nickname Frank and I had dinner last night, Frank said, it basically, none of the jokes go too far. That's what I like about the series. They always look like, oh, fuck, this is going to go over the edge. No, they walk up to the edge. They look over. Then they go, nah, we'll stop here.
Yeah.
And I I can understand this series being divisive as fuck because some people just aren't going to be there for it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It is definitely not as a high a quality per episode as something like Miss Marvel, where it may not be your thing for other reasons, but the quality is just fucking there.
Yeah. It was still good, but yeah, this would be the weakest of what I've seen so far.
I think if
but
this
they're building
happened,
up.
If this had happened in the middle of the whole Loki, Falcon and Winter Soldier thing, like if this had been the palate cleanser between the two of those, I think it would have hit on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Because you just had serious story, either one. You get some comedy, bring it back up, lighten it up, and then serious story again.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. And as they get more control of their properties and have an idea what they're doing, I think you'll find it hitting on more cylinders.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it. Didn't have any issue with it. Wasn't bad. Wasn't horrible.
I also like that it's only about a half an hour or so each.
Yes.
We need to normalize, only make the episode as long as it needs to be.
Yeah.
Now, they might be going a little short all the time. I'd like to see that if an episode needs a little more time, they do a little more time. But the half an hour format was good for a reason.
Yep.
But I like the hour format. You can't always be an hour. You can be 45 minutes, an hour. Like the Stranger Things, Rings of Power thing. You're just like, good Lord, I don't always have that kind of time every week, you know? I need to decompress and shit. I need some time to just chill and not get all this heavy shit thrown at me. Like, we were talking about Chernobyl.
Oh my God.
And how you cannot binge that series.
You would be...
You cannot binge that series. Do not binge that series.
Yeah, it's better not.
In fact, if you had a bad day at work, don't watch an episode that night.
No shit.
You know, something like She-Hulk is the opposite, where you could binge that. You could just go. Cool.
Yeah.
You know, something like Rings of Power, maybe not so much, because like watching a Lord of the Rings movie, which is a considerable time investment.
Yeah. I'm going to say I watched this movie and it was crap, and I'm not going to review it much more than anything that it was crap, but Morbius, it was shit.
Was it Morbin time?
It was Morbin time, and it was Morbin time. As soon as I turned it on, I want to Morbid out of there. I mean, this was bad. And I'm going to take this back. This story was fucking horrible. Everything about this was just bad. I mean, because Morbius is a cool character.
No, he's not.
But I mean, cool enough. But I mean, it was not. This was bad.
I appreciate that some people like the character. I don't actually think he was ever cool.
Yeah. But I mean, the story was horrible. The writing was bad. It was just bad. Skip it. I know it's like now like on the top 10 list, and it's because it's that morbid curiosity thing.
Look, come on. They made fun of it so bad it was trending, and the company thought it was trending for good reasons, so they re-released it and lost more money.
Yeah.
That is fucking epic.
Yeah.
That's almost worth giving them the watch right there, but I have standards.
Yeah, it was bad. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But I am going to talk about something that I did thoroughly enjoy, and I binged watched it. I dug it. I thought it was really cool. Cyberpunk Edge Runners on Netflix. It is an anime style, so it does have a little bit more of an anime feel, but definitely is full-fledged cyberpunk.
Okay.
You might like it. I don't know if if the anime might turn you off a bit, but it's
motherfucker. I was watching anime back when people had no idea what it was.
Correct,
but dislike anime.
No, I just don't know if this would be that maybe infringing on your cyberpunk feel to it, but I don't know if you would or not. But I would recommend it to give it a try.
I think anime is the proper. Motherfucker, I saw Ghost in the Shell in the fucking theater.
So did I.
The animated Ghost in the Shell in the actual theater, not the fucking live action bullshit.
No, I saw that in the theater too.
I know, I'm just saying.
But no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun.
No one watched Lensman. I mean, I have. It's called Green Lantern. I'm joking there. That is where they stole Green Lantern from. But hey, I mean, like, Akira and all that stuff. I like anime, so don't look like that. Come on.
But I mean, it does have a. You can tell it has an anime feel to it. It does get dark and gritty. It does get
It's cyberpunk. If cyberpunk's not dark and gritty, you haven't made cyberpunk.
correct. Very
The
violent,
punk
very
part.
bloody. Yeah. um, uh, some sex, some raunchiness. Very much in with what it's supposed to be. Um, yeah, we've seen it. You're not gonna have an issue with it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I'm sitting there going, "Oh, I know what that is. Oh, I know what that is. You know, and I know what this is, and I know what that is." But it was done really well. It was a lot of fun. Had some good feel good moments to it. Had some shitty feel good moments. You know,
I prefer a good, proper anime that knows its audience is shooting for its audience's level.
Correct.
Say. If you like cyberpunk a lot, you should be shooting for adult. That was the problem I had with Pacific Rim: The Black. It was aimed at YA.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you, Pacific Rim was not made for YA.
No, and this was made for adult, and it was a lot of fun. They did catch some shit because one of the characters was a Lolita, a small female child, but she was a brutal bitch. I loved her more than anything, and even the guys.
That's not a fucking thing in anime.
Correct, and they even defended it as like, no, she very much fits the cyberpunk feel.
Yeah.
She very much fits where she's going to be, and fuck you.
Look, there's people out there who are going to judge anime and use these terms. They have no fucking idea what they're talking about. Yeah. I'm used to that.
I loved it. The characters were fun. It has some good twists and good plot. It does go through and explain some things, you know, like psychosocial or cyber psycho. Can't speak right now. And goes through different everything. It was fun. I had a blast with it. I mean, if you like cyberpunk, go watch this. This is probably gonna be the closest you're gonna get in a long time. Cyber Psychosis. Thank you, Mo. But it's definitely worth a watch. I think they're like 30-minute episodes.
Yeah,
30 to 45.
I'll put it on a list, but everyone here knows how meaningless the list is because
I think it's like 7 blocks long.
Hey, what series are you watching? And I'm like, do you want a list of all the ones I've started and intend on finishing that I haven't? I mean, because they finished Witcher season 3, and apparently they're filming seasons 4 and 5 together. So I should probably finish season 1 and watch season 2. Probably should happen at some point.
But no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I would like to see it's its own self-contained, but you could do another, you know, episode, season, series, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. I'd be up for it. It was good and fun. So I
appreciate the support, Captain Amazing.
Yeah, she's pretty much the way. Just give it to you, and
I did pre-order a Blu-ray copy of Top Gun Maverick, so I can have it to take my mom's house if she wants to see it again because that movie is fucking great.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that to come out so I can watch that.
You haven't seen it?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
So you're gonna hate me saying this because I know how much you loved it. It was a better movie than fucking Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Yeah, like I said, I want to see it. I'm just waiting for it to come out.
You may not like it as much, and that's fair.
Correct.
But it was like at parts somewhat ridiculous, but you're generally on board for the whole ride.
Yeah. Like I said, I want to see it. Everybody says it's been really good, so
yeah, it's my number one movie I've seen this year. Sorry, Spider-Man: No Way Home. Sorry, the Batman. Sorry, the Batman was never in the running for best.
No, there's not one. Right?
So we have had some discourse on the Batman because I know you love it.
Yeah.
And it's flawed, but I don't feel like it's not worth the sequel that they've obviously announced is coming. I'm there for the sequel. It has some good parts.
Yeah.
The more I think about it, I do want to give it another watch at some point, but it's a little ponderous at points.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. Anytime someone says sequels now, I'm kind of like, no matter if it was good or not.
Sequels, reboots, everything. I mean, when you talk about any 80s or earlier property, any property like that, they're going to do sequels because it's all about making the money.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you talked about it last week. It might be difficult because Warner Brothers is Ho ho! No one knows what's going on in that fucking place. Yeah. Did anyone make it through Morbius, even like 10 minutes of it? Cookie, Gonzo watched the whole thing.
And I couldn't stand it. It was bad.
I would, but I could watch 2 episodes of Rings of Power, which would be good instead of watching that. Maybe 1.5. It's probably only an hour and a half long movie, let's be honest.
And talking about reboots or whatever, they're making another Karate Kid coming out in 2023 or 2024.
It was better than Snake Eyes. I haven't seen Snake Eyes, but I'm more likely to watch Snake Eyes.
Yeah.
No. Warner Brothers might not be doing movies, but a lot of actors aren't going to work with Warner Brothers because they are. So they canceled Batgirl, and they say because it wasn't doing well, but it's probably because they didn't like the fact that it was a female person of color or non-white female in the lead role.
Correct.
So they canceled whatever they were doing with Supergirl because they had gotten a non-white Supergirl. So we don't know for a fact, but it's all sort of trending towards crusty old white guy in charge, and you know what that means.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, I think at this point, I would just let Zack Snyder do whatever the fuck he wants with DC. Give the Snyderverse fans their happiness. The rest of us will watch and laugh. And then eventually it'll have to reboot again, probably with a new CEO in charge of Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't really have any excitement. I mean, like, so it's like, are you going to go see Black Adam? Of course I'm going to see Black Adam. It's the fucking Rock. Who doesn't want to see The Rock?
Yeah.
Am I excited for Black Adam? No. God, no. They're going to shit on another DC series, comic series, pretty horribly.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's honestly, it's a train wreck that is funny. So we will see how that goes.
Oh, we are past time. I just realized it.
Yeah, Xander, it's worrisome and might be worth looking at not supporting them. Not what I do right now, but
yeah. Well, guys, we appreciate you listening. We appreciate you hanging out with us. We'll be back, of course, next week. I probably will have Jim on, and we'll be talking about some cool painting stuff, I'm sure.
I may actually be on, too. We'll see how my week goes. I don't skip this because I don't want to be here. You can start Star Trek. Star Trek's not Warner Brothers. It's Paramount.
Yeah.
It's more that my weeks are terrible, and I need the full decompression time because I am dealing with a lot of challenges at work.
Which is okay. Self-care is very important to us.
Yes.
Type thing. So, guys, we're going to send you all off to Rainer72. Of course, he did some amazing painting for Warfare Weekend. I can't show it or talk about it yet because it's top secret hush-hush.
Top secret.
But he actually is teaching some classes at Warfare Weekend. So if you're coming, make sure you check him out. And if you're not coming, come on out. You may have some good times. You get to see me in person. Scary, but get to.
You want me to get multiple days off? Slash one? Hey, that would be a thing.
So, guys, please take care of yourself. Please watch after each other. Come back, and we'll see you later. For More Than Dice, I'm Gonzo.
I'm John.
Good night. Stick around for Rainer.
Go eat some leftover swordfish. No dessert. I'll be okay.
I think I'm going to have some dessert.